This is Greg Helbeck here. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Fast Track, or if you're on my YouTube channel, Greg Helbeck REI. Today I'm going to talk about the worst time to sell your house flips. Now, flipping houses is a lot about timing. It's a lot about strategy, but there is definitely a time during the year, or there's actually multiple times during the year that really stink to sell flips. So I'm going to cover that today on the video. If you're not familiar with me, I've done over 400 properties on the East Coast and on the West Coast. I've had a lot of experience flipping houses, wholesaling properties, doing rental properties, creative finance. So everything you're going to learn from me is from the trenches. This is not regurgitated theory out of a book. So the goal of this is to share with you what I've learned so you don't have to make the mistakes that I have made. And boy, has this one cost me on a few projects. So we're going to get into today the worst times to sell your house flips. Now, real estate is obviously a very local business, right? You might look at national stats and, that's taken into account the entire United States of America. And, every region is going to differ. So I'll give you an example. Florida and California, for the most part, have sunny weather and it's very warm there. Therefore, they don't necessarily get these crazy seasonal impacts like a Minnesota or a North Dakota would. For example, there's an investor that I know in Minnesota, and he mentioned to me that, the winter just becomes a ginormous ghost town there. People really just sit in their house. They don't look to buy properties versus like if you're in Arizona, I would assume the winter would be a pretty hot season to buy properties because the weather isn't 110 degrees and you don't have to necessarily worry about cooking a turkey in your glove compartment. So anyway, real estate is very local. So you got to understand your area where you are and really ask people who are in your market what the deal is with the seasonality stuff. But I'm just going to give you the general outlines. First of all, bad time to sell flips is obviously during the holidays, right? So if you're trying to put your properties up for sale in between, the second week of December and the first week of January, probably not a good idea, right? The reason being is that people are not in the mood of buying properties or selling properties. People are in the mood of celebrating the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. So if you have a house flip that you just completed and you're thinking about listing your property, I would recommend you do not list your property between the second week of December and the first week of January. In our company, Velocity House Buyers, we always wait. If we have inventory we're going to put up for sale, we always wait till the second week of January. We wait for the holidays to officially pass everybody. We don't want to list a house on January 1st. We don't want to list a house on December 25th. We don't want to list a house really anywhere near that, right? We want to list our properties after the new year, after people get back into the swing of things. So that's the first thing. Don't list your houses during the holidays. Thanksgiving is another one. I mean, not as bad as Christmas in terms of the slowdown, but definitely I probably wouldn't list your house, Thanksgiving Thursday. That's most likely not going to be a good idea because on Thanksgiving, people are going to be eating turkey. They're not going to be on Zillow looking for their next house to buy. So I'd probably avoid Thanksgiving as well. Now, another one that you probably didn't realize is Memorial Day weekend, right? I would not list a house on Memorial Day weekend. And I've done that and I've had momentum not be in my favor because I did that. So think about, the Northeast and the Northwest where I live. The winters are long, they're rainy, they're cold, they're snowy. People are just dying to get into summer. So when Memorial Day weekend comes around, people are just excited to go to the lake or go to the beach. So that's another time you don't want to do it. Now, the last time I would tell you that's not great to list properties, but like I said, sometimes it is what it is. You just want to get your property sold, is listing property, right around when school gets back. So I would recommend if you can, don't sell a property in like early August, especially around Labor Day. Will you get a buyer if it's priced right? Yes, but you're better off waiting. Now, am I telling you right now, if you need to sell a property, should you hold off completely? No, because ultimately, if you put something on the market at a good price that's a good product, yes, it will sell. But the thing about selling properties as a house flipper is it's all about getting momentum, right? And getting momentum comprises of the timing of the listing. It comprises of the price and obviously the pictures and the actual product you're selling, in this case, the house or the condo or the multifamily. So if you get the price right and you get the marketing and the pictures right, the only other thing you need to solve for is the timing. And now if you don't need to sell your house right away, you're most likely better off avoiding one of those 3 times I told you and holding off to list the property at a better time, i.e. after Labor Day, after the holidays, after Memorial Day. so you can ultimately, try to get the most money and get the best terms, right? Because it's not necessarily about getting the most money for your house. That's important, but it's about getting the right buyer who's not going to jerk you around and having favorable terms when you're the seller. Now, when you're selling a property on the market for top dollar, most likely, whether it's fixed up or not, it's all about having leverage as the seller. And, when you can get a property put out on the market at a good price that's attractive to people, which is ultimately going to be showings and showing requests, you want to try to get as many offers as you can the first week of it being on the market, so you can ultimately select the best offer by usually 7 to 10 days afterwards, and you go into escrow right away. Now, the problem is that when you misprice a property or you mistime a property, you lose the momentum of a sale, and then you're just waiting for any buyer to come around and walk your property. So you're probably asking, Greg, well, when's the best time to sell a house? Here's the answer to that. And this is like, everyone knows this. Springtime, right? Springtime, late March, April, May, not Memorial Day May, but like early May. April historically has been the best time. The spring market is when you want to sell your property. So if you could time it to where you're buying inventory in the winter, renovating it, and selling it in the spring, that's always going to be optimal. So hopefully you got value from this. If you're watching, if you're listening, if you could share this podcast with other people, it would mean a lot to me. And last but not least, as you guys always know, if you're in Washington State, the Hudson Valley area of New York, or anywhere in the state of Delaware, and you have a house you want to wholesale to me, I am a direct buyer. And I'd love to buy your deal if it makes sense. Or if you want to just JV with me and wholesale a deal together. I mean, we've done JV wholesale deals with people and we've made $100,000 wholesale fees. So if you're in one of those areas, do me a favor, send it to me. I promise you, if it's a deal, we will make it happen. My email is greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. And my Instagram is @grego37. You can either email or DM me. And I will see you on the next Real Estate Weekly lesson.